I still remember the day I learned that the foods I had trusted for years were quietly working against me. For most of my adult life, I believed whole grains were the ultimate symbol of healthy eating. Brown rice instead of white rice, whole wheat bread instead of white bread, oatmeal for breakfast. It all seemed so smart, so responsible. Doctors praised it, friends shared tips, and health magazines promised I was protecting my heart, digestion, and long-term vitality. But when I crossed into my late 60 seconds, I began to notice changes I couldn't explain. Fatigue, swollen ankles, cramps at night, signs I had blamed on just getting older. Then blood tests revealed the truth. My kidneys weren't handling these so-called healthy grains the way they once had. That discovery shocked me, and today, I want to share why the foods you trust most may secretly be overworking your aging kidneys. Why healthy grains can become a hidden burden on aging kidneys. When we think about healthy eating, grains often sit at the very center of the conversation. Doctors recommend them for heart health, dietitians encourage them for digestion, and the media constantly reminds us that whole grains are the key to graceful aging. For decades, I followed this advice, switching from refined options to healthier versions. Brown rice, oatmeal, whole wheat bread, even quinoa. On the surface, this shift makes perfect sense. These foods are richer in fiber, higher in vitamins, and packed with minerals. They help regulate cholesterol, balance blood sugar, and keep the digestive system moving. At least, that's what we're told. But here's the reality that surprised me once I turned 60. Our kidneys don't function the same way they used to. Kidneys are incredible organs, tiny filters that quietly remove excess minerals, toxins, and waste products from our blood every single day. In our younger years, they are efficient, strong, and resilient. But with age, kidney function naturally declines. Even if you've never been diagnosed with kidney disease, your filtration rate often drops by about 1% each year after age 40. For someone in their 60 seconds or 70 seconds, that decline can be significant. Why does this matter? Because the very nutrients that make grains healthy in the eyes of mainstream nutrition, phosphorus, potassium, oxalates, and protein, are the exact ones that aging kidneys struggle to filter out. When these minerals build up in the bloodstream, they can create a cascade of health issues. Elevated phosphorus pulls calcium from your bones, leaving them brittle and prone to fractures. Too much potassium disrupts your heart rhythm and can even lead to cardiac arrest in severe cases. Oxalates combine with calcium to form kidney stones. Excess protein, though beneficial for muscles, increases the workload on kidneys already under pressure. The danger here isn't obvious. Most of us eat these grains daily without a single warning sign. You don't feel phosphorus rising in your blood. You don't sense potassium building up until it's too late. Fatigue, swelling, bone pain, high blood pressure. These can creep in so gradually that you chalk them up to aging. But beneath the surface, your kidneys are working harder and harder, struggling to keep balance. I learned this the hard way when my own blood work showed phosphorus and potassium creeping higher than normal, and my glomerular filtration rate, GFR, slipping below 60. That number hit me like a wake-up call. Suddenly, all the healthy habits I was proud of, daily oatmeal, brown rice bowls, hearty whole wheat sandwiches, looked different. They weren't helping me age better. They were quietly straining the very organs I needed to protect. That's why I want to walk you through 5 specific grains that, while often praised as healthy, can become hidden threats after 60. Each one comes with its own risks, and more importantly, each one has safer alternatives you can enjoy without fear. By the end of this breakdown, you'll see that you don't need to give up grains entirely. You just need to make smarter, more kidney-friendly choices. Hash 5. Brown rice. For years, I thought brown rice was my smartest swap. Everywhere I looked, it was praised as the healthier alternative to white rice. It had more fiber, more vitamins, more minerals. When friends came over, I'd proudly serve it with salmon or steamed vegetables, convinced I was feeding both of us the right kind of carbs. But I'll never forget the day my doctor pointed at my blood work and asked, "How often are you eating brown rice?" I almost laughed. I said, "All the time. It's supposed to be healthy, right?" That's when I learned that for someone over 60, with kidneys slowing down, brown rice can quietly become a problem. Here's why. Just 1 cup of cooked brown rice carries about 150 milligrams of phosphorus and 154 milligrams of potassium. For younger people with healthy kidneys, those numbers don't raise a flag. But when your kidneys are aging, those minerals don't always get filtered properly. Instead, they start to build up in the blood. The consequences can be subtle at first. I noticed I was feeling more tired in the afternoons. My legs would cramp at night, something that hadn't bothered me before. My ankles would puff up, even when I hadn't been on my feet much. I shrugged it off as normal aging. But those were early signs that my kidneys were struggling. Excess phosphorus is especially tricky. It doesn't just float around harmlessly. It actively pulls calcium out of your bones. That makes them fragile, more likely to break. And the calcium doesn't just vanish, it can deposit in your blood vessels, your eyes, even your heart. Potassium, on the other hand, can interfere with your heartbeat, sometimes in dangerous ways. And then there's the protein. A single cup of brown rice has over 5 grams of protein. That may sound like a small amount, but for kidneys already under stress, every extra gram of protein adds more work. It's like piling one more weight on a scale that's already tipping. I think of my friend Jeanette often when I talk about brown rice. She's 69, a retired teacher, and she switched to brown rice after a friend told her it was the healthiest carb. She ate it nearly every day for lunch bowls, with fish, in soups, but by 67, she felt drained. Her legs cramped, and her blood tests showed high phosphorus and a declining GFR. With the help of a dietitian, she cut back brown rice to once a week, swapped in white rice in small servings, and tried alternatives like cauliflower rice. Within months, her labs improved, and her energy returned. That's when I realized brown rice isn't bad. It's not the villain. But for aging kidneys, portion control is everything. These days, I enjoy white rice in smaller amounts, paired with kidney-friendly vegetables. I don't eat brown rice every day anymore, and honestly, I feel lighter because of it. The lesson? Even the better grain can quietly work against you if your kidneys are slowing down. Less is often more. #4. Oatmeal. If there's one food I thought was untouchable in terms of health, it was oatmeal. I grew up hearing it was the ultimate breakfast, warm, filling, full of fiber, and linked to lower cholesterol. When I started paying more attention to my health, I swapped out sugary cereals for a steaming bowl of oats. I honestly believed I was doing my body a huge favor, but as I got older and my kidney numbers started slipping, I had to take a second look. And what I learned shocked me. Just half a cup of raw oats has around 166 milligrams of phosphorus and 147 milligrams of potassium. That might not sound like much, but remember, aging kidneys don't filter as effectively. Over time, those minerals add up, and the burden falls directly on your kidneys. The symptoms weren't dramatic at first. Some mornings, after my oatmeal, I felt heavy and sluggish. My legs would ache a little, and sometimes I even noticed cramps. I brushed it off. Maybe I hadn't stretched enough. Maybe I was just tired. But looking back, those were subtle signs of mineral imbalance. Another thing I didn't realize was how the way you prepare oats changes their impact. Most mornings, I'd cook them with cow's milk, thinking I was boosting the nutrition, but cow's milk adds even more phosphorus and potassium, sometimes doubling what's already in the oats. And then came the toppings: bananas, raisins, peanut butter, sunflower seeds. Healthy in theory, yes, but loaded with potassium. Altogether, my perfect breakfast had quietly become a kidney stress test. And then there's the protein. Oats carry about 5 to 6 grams of protein per serving. It might not sound like much, but remember, Every extra gram matters for kidneys already working overtime. Day after day. It was just one more strain my body didn't need. So, what did I do? Did I stop eating oats completely? Not exactly. What I learned is that moderation and preparation make all the difference. These days, I stick to 2 or 3 small servings per week instead of eating them daily. I cook them with water or almond milk instead of cow's milk. I top them with apple slices, blueberries, or cinnamon instead of bananas or dried fruit. And I avoid the instant flavored packets. They're full of sodium and phosphate additives that only make things worse. The result? I still enjoy my oatmeal, but my kidneys aren't paying the price anymore. I no longer feel weighed down after breakfast, and my blood work reflects that change. The biggest lesson I learned with oats is this: even healthy habits can become harmful if they aren't adjusted for age and kidney health. Oats aren't the enemy, but they're not a free food either. With the right tweaks, I can still enjoy them and protect my kidneys at the same time. #3. Whole wheat bread. For decades, whole wheat bread was my go-to choice. Every nutrition article, every diet book, every doctor seemed to agree. Whole wheat was the smarter upgrade from white bread. It had more fiber, more vitamins, and a better impact on blood sugar. I felt good about tossing those soft white loaves aside and filling my pantry with brown, hearty slices. But here's what I didn't know back then. Whole wheat bread can be a hidden challenge for aging kidneys. The problem isn't the bread itself, it's what's inside. One slice can carry up to 64 milligrams of phosphorus and nearly 100 milligrams of potassium. That may not sound like much, but think about how most of us eat bread. Rarely just one slice. 2 slices for a sandwich doubles those numbers. And if you're eating it daily, the load adds up quickly. Then, there's sodium. Many store-bought whole wheat breads contain 130 to 200 milligrams of sodium per slice. That means a simple sandwich can pack 400–500 milligrams of sodium once you add fillings. For someone with aging kidneys, that sodium can cause fluid retention, raise blood pressure, and push the kidneys even harder. I started noticing it myself. My hands would feel puffy after lunch, or my rings felt tighter. At first, I thought it was just the weather. But really, it was salt hidden in the bread I thought was healthy. And there's another hidden danger most people don't realize: phosphate additives. To improve texture and shelf life, many bread manufacturers add compounds like monocalcium phosphate or disodium phosphate. Unlike the natural phosphorus in grains, these additives are absorbed almost 100% by the body. That means they place an even heavier burden on your kidneys than the label might suggest. So what do I do now? Did I stop eating bread altogether? No. Bread is comforting, familiar, and part of daily life, but I became more strategic. I switched to white bread or light rye in small portions. They generally have less phosphorus and potassium. I carefully check labels and look for loaves with less than 120 milligrams of sodium per slice. I avoid dark rye or multigrain breads unless I've reviewed the ingredients carefully. And most importantly, I watch for anything on the label with phos in the name. That's the giveaway for phosphate additives. I also pay closer attention to what goes inside the sandwich. I used to load up with processed meats, cheese slices, and salty spreads without realizing I was stacking sodium and phosphorus on top of sodium and phosphorus. These days, I keep it simpler: fresh chicken, lettuce, cucumber, or a little unsalted butter. Looking back, whole wheat bread wasn't bad. It was my lack of awareness that caused the problem. When your kidneys are aging, the details matter. A small adjustment like 1 slice instead of 2, or choosing low-sodium options can make a big difference. The lesson I carry with me is simple. Not every upgrade is an upgrade for your kidneys. Whole wheat might be good for your heart, but for your kidneys after 60, it requires caution. #2. Quinoa. For years, I thought quinoa was the crown jewel of my pantry. It was everywhere. Magazines called it a superfood. Chefs added it to fancy salads, and health blogs praised it as the perfect alternative to rice and pasta. Naturally, I bought into the hype. I told myself, if I eat quinoa, I'm doing something incredible for my body. But the truth is more complicated, especially when it comes to aging kidneys. 1 cup of cooked quinoa contains about 281 milligrams of phosphorus, 336 milligrams of potassium, and a hefty 8 grams of protein. Compared to rice or bread, those numbers are much higher. For younger, healthy kidneys, quinoa can be fantastic protein for muscles, minerals for energy, fiber for digestion, but for kidneys that are slowing down, that nutrient load can quietly cause harm. I remember when I first started eating quinoa regularly. At first, it felt great light meals, plenty of variety. But over time, I noticed my bones ached more often, and my digestion didn't feel as smooth. My doctor explained why. Excess phosphorus can leach calcium from the bones, leaving them fragile. Worse, that calcium doesn't disappear. It deposits in places you don't want it, like arteries and heart valves. My blood work confirmed it. My phosphorus levels were creeping higher. Then, there's the potassium. We often think of bananas when it comes to potassium, but quinoa is surprisingly rich in it. For someone with kidneys that can't filter properly, that extra potassium can cause muscle weakness, irregular heartbeats, and in extreme cases, even cardiac arrest. I didn't get that far, thankfully. But the cramps and fatigue were enough to make me take notice. Another hidden factor is oxalates. Quinoa naturally contains them, and oxalates can bind with calcium in the body to form crystals. These crystals can become kidney stones, especially if you're not drinking enough water. I'll admit, I wasn't always great at staying hydrated, and there were days when I felt a sharp twinge in my side that made me wonder if a stone was forming. So, does that mean quinoa is completely off limits? Not necessarily. What I've learned is that the dose and the preparation are everything. Now, I limit quinoa to half a cup cooked, no more than once or twice a week. I rinse it thoroughly before cooking to wash away some of the anti-nutrients. I pair it with low-potassium vegetables like cabbage, zucchini, or cauliflower. And most importantly, I drink plenty of water when I eat it. I've also discovered that white quinoa tends to be slightly lower in phosphorus and potassium than red or black varieties. When I do buy it, I choose white, and I keep portions small. Quinoa isn't the enemy. It's just not the miracle food I once believed it to be. For people with healthy kidneys, it can be a smart choice. But for those of us over 60, with kidneys that need extra care, moderation is key. Even so-called superfoods come with strings attached. Has shown. Wheat bran. Out of all the grains I had in my kitchen, wheat bran was the one I thought was the safest. It was marketed as a powerhouse of fiber, a natural way to stay regular, and a boost for overall digestion. I used to sprinkle it into smoothies, stir it into yogurt, and even add it to muffins I baked at home. It felt like such a simple win. More fiber, fewer problems, but I couldn't have been more wrong, especially after 60. Wheat bran, as I learned, is one of the most concentrated sources of phosphorus and potassium you can find. Just half a cup, around 29 grams, delivers nearly 294 milligrams of phosphorus and 343 milligrams of potassium. On top of that, it contains about 4.5 grams of protein and a whopping 12.5 grams of fiber. On paper, those numbers look impressive, but for aging kidneys, they're red flags. What makes wheat bran particularly problematic is how the phosphorus in it behaves. Unlike the phosphorus naturally bound in many grains, the phosphorus in bran is more bioavailable, which means the body absorbs it much more efficiently. That extra absorption places a heavier load on kidneys that are already struggling. Then there's the oxalates. Wheat bran is one of the highest oxalate grain products, and oxalates are the building blocks of calcium oxalate stones, the most common kind of kidney stones. When you combine that with the already high levels of phosphorus and potassium, wheat bran becomes a triple threat for kidney health. At one point, I was eating wheat bran almost every day without realizing it. I thought I was helping my digestion, but instead, I was quietly overloading my kidneys. The signs were subtle: more bloating, occasional discomfort in my lower back, and blood work showing that my mineral levels were edging too high. I remember reading advice from the National Kidney Foundation that said if you're prone to kidney stones, wheat bran is something you should avoid altogether. That was the final push for me. I cleared it from my pantry and started looking for alternatives. So, what do I use now for fiber? I've switched to safer, kidney-friendly options. Cooked oats in moderation still give me fiber without overwhelming my system. Apples with the skin on, barley in small portions, and psyllium husk, the soluble fiber in many fiber supplements, are all gentler choices. I also eat more steamed vegetables like zucchini, carrots, and green beans. They give me the fiber I need without pushing phosphorus, potassium, or oxalates too high. Looking back, wheat bran taught me one of the most important lessons about eating after 60. Not all health foods are healthy for everyone. What works for digestion in one person can be damaging to the kidneys in another. It's not about whether a food is good or bad in general, it's about whether it's good for me at this stage of life. Safer alternatives: how I changed my grain habits. After learning the hard way that not every healthy grain is truly kidney-friendly, I had to rethink my diet. At first, it felt overwhelming. I asked myself, if brown rice, oatmeal, whole wheat bread, quinoa, and wheat bran are risky, then what's left? Do I have to give up grains completely? Thankfully, the answer is no. With the guidance of a renal dietitian, I discovered that it's not about eliminating grains. It's about choosing safer options, cooking them wisely, and keeping portions in check. One of the first surprises for me was white rice. For years, I had been told it was the bad rice, stripped of nutrients, too starchy, less fiber. But in reality, for aging kidneys, white rice is actually gentler. It has far less phosphorus and potassium than brown rice, which means my kidneys don't have to work as hard. Yes, it's lower in fiber, but that can be balanced with kidney-friendly vegetables like carrots, green beans, or zucchini. I started enjoying small bowls of white rice again, and it felt comforting without the hidden risks. Another option I turned to was white bread and plain pasta. These might sound boring, but they're typically lower in phosphorus and potassium compared to their whole grain versions. I just make sure to pick low-sodium labels and keep portions modest. A simple slice of white bread with fresh cucumber or a bowl of plain pasta with steamed veggies gives me energy without overwhelming my kidneys. I also found joy in barley and couscous. In small portions, about half a cup cooked, they can be safe and satisfying. The key is rinsing them well before cooking and boiling them in extra water, then draining the liquid to reduce the mineral content. That simple step makes a big difference. For breakfast, instead of high mineral cereals, I sometimes enjoy cream of wheat or rice cereal. They're warm, light, and much lower in phosphorus and potassium. I can top them with a sprinkle of cinnamon or a few slices of apple to make them feel more indulgent. One of the biggest changes I made was in how I prepare grains. I avoid cooking them in cow's milk or salty broths. Instead, I use water or low-potassium plant milks like almond or rice milk. I also avoid topping my grains with high-potassium foods like bananas or dried fruits. Instead, I pair them with blueberries, cabbage, or carrots. Portion control has been my golden rule. I keep grain servings small, about half a cup cooked per meal. I also rotate them so I'm not eating the same one every single day. That variety not only protects my kidneys, but also keeps my meals interesting. The most important thing I've learned is that I don't need to live in fear of food. I can still enjoy grains. I just have to be mindful. By choosing safer options, cooking them properly, and eating smaller portions, I've found a balance that supports both my health and my enjoyment of food. Looking back, I realize how easily I was misled. I thought brown rice, oatmeal, whole wheat bread, quinoa, and wheat bran were protecting my health, when in fact, they were slowly putting more strain on my aging kidneys. The truth is, these grains aren't bad, they simply carry more phosphorus, potassium, oxalates, and protein than my kidneys could handle at this stage of life. The biggest lesson I've learned is this: health isn't one size fits all. What works for a 30-year-old may not work for someone over 60, and what's called a superfood for one body can be a silent burden for another. The good news is, there are safer choices: white rice, plain pasta, low-sodium white bread, cream of wheat, couscous. These can all be enjoyed in moderation, especially when paired with kidney-friendly vegetables. Portion control, smart cooking methods, and variety have become my best tools. So here's my challenge to you. Look at your own plate. Which grain surprised you the most? Which one are you ready to replace first? Share it, talk about it, and take that small step, because small changes today can protect your kidneys and your life for years to come.